Part 93. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 926. Whoosh. Boom. Just blow up the command post and tank factory and that's it? Impossible. This is the first time Wang Ling has used a new combat mode. This is still in the trial stage. Of course, it will not end so soon. The Iron Curtain device still has a long time to go. Taking advantage of this time, it will be a big explosion. Extremely explosive. After the command post exploded, Wang Ling moved across time and space in the blink of an eye to a biochemical reactor and blew it up with a bomb. Then he moved to another biochemical reactor and blew it up again. Rumble. Rumble. While Wang Ling was bombing indiscriminately, the 6 elite apocalypse tanks also began to show their prowess. The 6 pairs of large-caliber gun barrels poured out explosive shells almost continuously, especially those who were attacking nearby. The RI troops couldn't hurt them, but they could easily fight back. Under this series of bombings, the surrounding Yuri guards quickly collapsed. The infantry army suffered heavy casualties, and the armored troops also exploded on a large scale. Bringing these apocalypse tanks to attack together was actually just Wang Ling's genius. At first, he thought of bringing a group of SEALs, but other infantrymen simply couldn't withstand the Iron Curtain device field. If they touched it, they would die. Unable to participate in new tactics. The next best thing is to choose these elite apocalypse tanks. But don't mention it, this effect is really not that good. The destructive power of the elite apocalypse tanks is extremely powerful. The 6 elite apocalypse tanks under the Iron Curtain device have almost the destructive power to sweep everything around, especially those who are close to it. All the troops inside became the dead souls of his cannons. Even nearby defensive buildings, such as getter cannons, mind control towers, and tank bunkers, are all targets of its attack. Under the indiscriminate bombardment, no one can resist. Of course, there are limitations to doing this. The 6 apocalypse tanks cannot be spread too far apart. After all, they are relying on the Iron Curtain device and Wang Ling's hyperspace fluctuation circle to achieve all this. When the Iron Curtain before the device disappears, or if Wang Ling wants to transfer temporarily, they must be together, otherwise there will be no way to survive if they stay. Whoosh. Boom. Just as 6 apocalypse tanks were bombing indiscriminately, Wang Ling had already relied on his ability to move through time and space and his extremely short freeze time to blow up all the biochemical reactors in the entire base. This hand can't be described as cruel. Yuri's base relied on biochemical reactors to generate electricity. Wang Ling had just blown up 2 major productivity buildings, the tank factory and the command post, semi-paralyzing the entire base, but he had completely cut off the base's power with his hind legs. The power supply turns all getter cannons, mind control towers, and even mine detectors into decorations. This is even worse for the entire base. However, even so, Wang Ling still did not stop there. Instead, he targeted the guards. He picked up his rifle and fired rapidly. In a matter of seconds, he killed hundreds of infantrymen and all kinds of tanks and armored vehicles were also destroyed. More than 20 vehicles. If Wang Ling's previous operations made the space worse, then his attack now, coupled with the bombing of Tiankai tanks, would be a disaster for the space. If Wang Ling is given enough time, he can take advantage of this Iron Curtain device to wipe out the entire base. However, after all, there are 5 Yuri bases here. Wang Ling has spent nearly half of the Iron Curtain device time since he fought, but it is really not suitable to stay here anymore. After putting away his firearm, Wang Ling moved through time and space to the center of the 6 apocalypse tanks, released a space-time fluctuation circle, and carried these tanks with a whoosh of time and space to move to the spiritual beacon. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Boom boom boom. This move frightened the enemy. The surrounding getter cannons quickly opened fire to counterattack, and the station tornado tanks also hurriedly opened fire. However, all the attacks fell on Wang Ling and Tiankai tanks, but all of them were killed. Blocked by the black protective shield, they can't be hurt at all. In less than 2 seconds, Wang Ling and the 6 Apocalypse tanks ended their stiff time. The 6 elite Apocalypse tanks immediately counterattacked the surrounding tanks and armored vehicles, while Wang Ling moved several times in succession. Blew up the getter cannon surrounding the psychic beacon, and then further blew up the entire psychic beacon, ending the large-scale spiritual power envelope here. Continue. It sounds complicated to say, but in fact, relying on the ability of the soldiers of the King of Soldiers level, Wang Ling did not have a few seconds to bomb these buildings, and the effective time of the Iron Curtain device was also relatively long. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang Ling took 6 more Apocalypse tanks and moved through time and space to the next Yuri base. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Although Wang Ling and the 6 Apocalypse tanks were absolutely invincible due to the protective shield of the Iron Curtain device, the base was still unwilling to give in and was still firing desperately. As a result, all attacks were in vain. After less than 2 seconds of freezing time, Wang Ling and Tiankai tanks' devastating counterattack began again. The 6 Apocalypse tanks opened and closed and blasted everything within the range, and the surrounding area was almost filled with violent explosions and flames. The scene was very shocking. These 6 Apocalypse really frightened Yuri base, but what frightened them even more was Wang Ling himself. Whoosh! Boom! Whoosh! Boom! The remaining time of the Iron Curtain device is not too long. Wang Ling does not expect to go to other bases to make trouble, so he simply makes trouble here. With one movement through time and space, he blew up the command post and decapitated people so quickly that even his commander could not react. Then he moved through time and space again, blowing up the tank factory and semi-paralyzing the entire base. Then, Wang Ling went crazy, bombing everywhere. 6 biochemical reactors exploded. Troop recycling bin, explode. 4 tank bunkers, explode. Mine detector, explode. 3 mind control towers exploded. Crazy, really crazy. If Wang Ling bites the space, it will really kill him. Every time he moved across time and space, a building in Yuri's base was bound to be blown up. However, the frequency of his movements was frighteningly high, and the freezing time was horribly short. As a result, almost the entire base was filled with him. There are traces of fluctuations in time and space movement, and under each trace, there is a Yuri base building that has been blown up by him. At this time, Wang Ling was really like a land god of death, wandering around the Yuri base, harvesting to his heart's content, without any humanity at all, cold and terrifying, and his cruel fighting methods actually made the Yuri base's reserve the tortured infantry collapsed. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 927. Whoosh! Boom! With another movement across time and space, Wang Ling blew up a getter cannon next to him. Whoosh! Boom! Moving through time and space again, the nearby mind control tower exploded. This continuous period of indiscriminate bombing has devastated the space. All the buildings were blown up by him alone. The remaining buildings have basically become useless, except for the tanks. Apart from the fact that the bunker still has some functions, everything else has become a decoration. This was the first time such a ferocious massacre had occurred on any battlefield, so much so that the infantrymen in the entire base had a spine-chilling sense of fear. In their hearts, Wang Ling had been demonized. Of course, the time that Wang Ling can be fierce is also limited. The Iron Curtain device has been maintained until now, and it is close to the limit time. The black protective shield on his body has begun to flicker and is about to disappear. Withdraw. And Wang Ling was not too fond of fighting. While the protective shield was still there, he hurriedly moved to the center of the 6 Apocalypse tanks through time and space, released a space-time fluctuation circle, and carried the 6 Apocalypse tanks back to the Coalition base through time and space. Wang Ling was very precise in controlling the time. Almost at the same moment when he left with Apocalypse, the black protective shield on his body also expired and quickly retreated. The Iron Curtain device ended here. But this is no longer harmful. After all, they have already left. At this moment, they have landed in the Coalition base. After about 3 seconds of stiffness, they returned to normal. The slight cracks on Wang Ling's body healed quickly, and then he ended his Wild Beast King form and returned to his normal body. Speaking of which, the guards at the Yuri base were really aggrieved. They were beaten so severely that they were almost paralyzed, but they couldn't fight back. This Wang Ling was really a rogue, taking advantage of the invincibility time to cause trouble, but as soon as the invincibility time passed, he left immediately, leaving no chance for the Yuri guards to fight back. One moment there were rumbling explosions, and the base was suffering from devastating disasters all the time. But the next moment, the source of the disaster suddenly left, and the entire base returned to unprecedented silence. This transition between movement and stillness also caused the brains of all the guards in the base to twitch. Many infantrymen felt a mixed feeling in their hearts, including fear, anger, and frustration, but more importantly, they did not know at a loss. My dear team leader, you are so perverted. Correspondingly, there is the situation in the Coalition base. The entire process of Wang Ling's operation was watched by many infantrymen in the base through electronic video. The subversive combat method really opened the eyes of this group of people. After Wang Ling returned, the entire base was excited. Can you still fight like this? That's the Iron Curtain device, and it can even be used by infantry. Team leader, are you still a human being? Team leader, you are really not a human being. Chrono Legion soldiers, SEALs, elite combat soldiers, and the Iron Curtain device are all combined together. Team leader, you are really good at it. Ha ha ha, team leader, you really scared us. Out of amazement at this new tactic, the soldiers in the entire base almost surrounded Wang Ling, chattering away. Even General Li Wiki left the command post, and the soldiers quickly made way for him to get in. Looking Wang Ling up and down, General Li Wiki was so happy that he couldn't smile from ear to ear. Haha, the experiment is considered a success, right? That's awesome, Wang Ling. With this tactic against the enemy, once you become familiar with it, you can even use it alone. Took over the command post of Yuri base in the entire war zone, right? Tisk tisk. When I saw you moving through time and space one after another and quickly blowing up the buildings of Yuri base, you know, I got goosebumps. Ha ha ha, yes, we are a little scared when we look at it. Damn, it's so scary, those Yuri soldiers will probably pee from fear. A group of soldiers started talking again, and it was quite lively. After Wang Lingling laughed, he said, the experiment was indeed successful, but because it was the first time to do it, the effect has not reached the best level. Isn't this good? Wang Ling, look at how awesome you are. Just when it was about to catch the ointment, a retort came from the back of the crowd. It sounded like a female voice. It was obvious that Agent Tanya had been alerted. The soldiers immediately gave way. Agent Tanya broke into the crowd alone and looked at Wang Ling strangely. You are really getting more and more scary. You can come up with such terrifying tactics. And you are getting more and more courageous. It's so big that you dare to forcefully connect the Iron Curtain device. That's great. Wang Ling gradually calmed down and looked at Tanya with a faint smile. This tactic is indeed terrifying, but it also requires the assistance of the Iron Curtain device, which means it will take 4 or 5 days to use it once. Why don't I dare to connect to the Iron Curtain device? Didn't your army also connect to the time and space teleportation device? You are really ignorant and can't hear good things. Agent Tanya was a little embarrassed and angry. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting more and more embarrassing, General Lewicki interrupted, "Okay, the next Iron Curtain device will take a long time, so let's put this rare energy aside for now." Wang Ling's surprise attack just now put the Yuri base was blown up to a paralysis, and the psychic beacon was destroyed by the way. The morale of the psychic empire is weak, so we might as well take this opportunity to launch a general attack and regain the Baigwen theater in one round. Okay, I'll go back and prepare now. The general attack will begin in 10 minutes. Agent Tanya's expression returned to normal, and after responding, she hurried back to direct and deliver orders. General Lewicki patted Wang Ling on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Being with you, there are so many surprises. Let's take a rest first, and we'll see you later. There's still a battle to be fought." "Yes, General." After Wang Ling responded, General Lewicki returned to the command post, ordered the entire army to prepare for battle, and briefly discussed the attack plan with Agent Tanya. 10 minutes passed quickly. The two armies were ready. Under the orders of the two commanders, the four field groups drove out of the base and began the general attack. However, Wang Ling was unmoved. He had just turned two Yuri bases upside down. Now he didn't want to rush into battle. He was still resting. The four major field groups do not need Wang Ling's fire suppression for the time being. Two of the 5 Yuri bases in the Baigwen war zone have been disabled. The two armies divided their labors and cooperated to uproot the two disabled bases first, and then restored them. They each attacked other Yuri bases. At this time, Wang Ling used time and space movement to reach the battlefield instantly. With the combat power of the two ace bases, it was easy to attack a Yuri base respectively. Not long after the attack, they broke through the enemy forces and completely wiped out all the defenders. Only the last Yuri base was left. Under the command of Agent Tanya and General Lewicki, the four major field groups moved closer together, uniting their forces to fight one family at a time. If this battle breaks out, with the combat power of the two ace bases, it will definitely be a crushing battle. But unexpectedly, the field teams of both armies failed to get close to the last town. The Yuri base here actually dismantled and sold some buildings one after another. The major troops actually seemed to have rebelled, and fled in all directions. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 928. Holy shit, it collapsed before I even started attacking. Is this base scared to death? Tisk, tisk, we have been fighting for so long, but this formation seems to be the first time we have seen it. After observing the actions of the last Yuri base on the electronic map, the officers and soldiers of both armies were stunned for a moment, and then they all started joking. Haha, the Empire of Mind is really interesting. Wang Ling didn't understand the Yuri base's confusing operation for a while, but Zhang was still smart, but General Lewicki saw it at a glance. The radio turned on the frequency of the entire army and laughed. Chen Tong immediately asked, "General, what is going on in Yuri base? Is it really that they are afraid of us and are starting an internal strife?" General Lewicki explained, "I am definitely afraid. If our lineup continues to attack this base, there will be no way to survive. However, they are not fighting internally. This is simply a strategy. The entire Yuri base is fleeing troops. It looks chaotic, but in fact it is orderly. Some of the troops in some directions are very single, but some are equipped with a full range of combat troops. They are fleeing in several directions away from us, and they have created such a large formation. It's actually just to distract us." Distract attention? Then why are they doing this time? A team leader from the Allied forces asked. General Lewicki was not stingy with his analysis. Look carefully at the command post of Yuri base. Troops on other routes dispersed, and the command post also turned into a base vehicle. Under the escort of a group of guards, it drove out of the war zone. I'm afraid this is the purpose of Yuri's base. They want to escape, but they might not be able to escape if they run normally, so they use this move to abandon the pawn to save the rook, and abandon the rook to save the commander. That's what feelings are like. Is the Soul Empire cowardly? Haha, you don't even hesitate to use this method to escape. After hearing these analyses, all the officers and soldiers of the coalition and allied forces couldn't help but laugh. Is it just to escape, however? Agent Tanya suddenly questioned. As the same commander, General Lewicki had enough respect for Agent Tanya and asked patiently, if it's not to escape, what else is the purpose? Agent Tanya replied, I don't know, I always feel something is wrong. During the Northern War Zone, the Mind Empire sent large-scale reinforcements to assist in the battle, but here, despite the harassment and attack by Yuri base when we first arrived, it was very fun, but looking at the entire war zone, no reinforcements were seen from beginning to end, as if this place had been abandoned. Now this kind of thing has happened again in the last Yuri base, and it looks like escape, but I feel like I am stalling for time, deliberately delaying the pace of our recovery of the war zone and the combat speed. Delaying time? Why? Is there any big move in the Soul Empire, and are you afraid of our intervention? Wang Ling asked confused. Agent Tanya said, I don't know either. Anyway, I feel a little uneasy, as if something big is about to happen. Is it a woman's intuition? Is it accurate? Chen Tong asked with some sarcasm. But Agent Tanya didn't want to answer this kind of question, and couldn't answer it. After a moment of silence, General Lewicki had an idea, I would rather believe it or not. No matter what the Empire of the Soul thinks, we must recover this war zone. They want to escape and delay time, but we can't. Granted their wish. All troops dispersed themselves into several small teams, evenly distributed firepower, and destroyed all fleeing troops in all directions as quickly as possible. Yes. Many troops quickly responded to the order, and even Agent Tanya imitated and issued similar orders. Red Alert World has this convenience. It does not require the commander to have full control of everything like in the game. After the overall order is issued, the lower-level officers and soldiers can execute further orders on their own. Wang Ling is also one of these individuals, and he is the most important individual. While the Wolf Group and the Eagle Group were allocating the firepower of their teams, he also selected 10 elite anti-aircraft tracked vehicles, 10 more anti-aircraft infantry and 40 other infantry of various types, all of which got into the anti-aircraft tracked vehicles. After getting ready, Wang Ling released a hyperspace wave circle, covering 10 anti-aircraft crawler vehicles. With a whoosh, he moved directly to the escape route of Yuri's base vehicle through hyperspace, and together they carried out the beheading operation. No matter how messy the route is, if you kill the commander first, the group will be leaderless, and the ensuing trapping and killing will be much easier. After the 2 seconds of stiffness, Wang Ling and the 10 anti-aircraft tracked vehicles all returned to normal, and then a group of infantrymen hurriedly got off their vehicles and formed an array. Buzz buzz. In front of Yuri's base vehicle, there was also a group of troops escorting them. Leading the way were more than 10 laser UFOs. This was also the reason why Wang Ling selected so much anti-aircraft firepower. He didn't want to attack these laser UFOs alone. Boom, boom, boom. Dong 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 dong. After the laser UFO broke into its range, 10 anti-aircraft tracked vehicles and 10 anti-aircraft infantry opened fire one after another. Even Wang Ling transformed into an anti-aircraft infantry and used full firepower. Although the number of these air defense troops is not large, they are all elite soldiers and generals. Wang Ling is even more abnormal. With the superposition of these air defense firepower, there is no pressure at all to bombard more than 10 laser UFOs. Before these laser UFOs could counterattack, they shot them all down. Then came a group of ground troops. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Here, Wang Ling had no intention of letting his soldiers gain experience. He just picked up his rifle and fired with a rapid fire, wiping out all the escorting troops. Buzz. At this time, Yuri's base vehicle finally sensed the danger. The guards lit up the vehicle, but it got scared, stopped temporarily, and then ran to one side. Run? Did you run away? Wang Ling laughed, then moved through time and space, came to the base vehicle, fired a time-consuming light wave with one hand, controlled it, and wiped it out in less than 3 seconds. The Warrior King level enhancement of the Chaos Legion soldiers also greatly increased Wang Ling's attack frequency, but Wang Ling didn't care too much about it. After Yuri's base vehicle was wiped out, just when Wang Ling was about to aim for the next route, his brain suddenly came back to his senses, as if he had been slapped on the butt, and he became anxious. Damn, I'm such an idiot. That's not the command post is a base vehicle, it can be controlled by the mind. What the hell, the base vehicle of the Mind Empire, how helpful will it be once you get it? I can kill it with just a flicker. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 929. Wang Ling had no way to control the command post of Yuri base in its architectural form, so he had no idea of using mind control. However, when it is in the form of a base vehicle, it can be classified as an armored unit. Ordinary psychic troops can control it, and Wang Ling can naturally do it as well. But he habitually destroyed it and failed to think of the skill at the first time. When he came to his senses, the base vehicle had been wiped out by him. There is nothing wrong with technology itself, it all depends on the people who use it. The same is true for the military technology of the Soul Empire. If you can get its base vehicle, you can master most of the military technology of the Soul Empire. For example, mind detectors, mind control towers, magneto-electric tanks, laser UFOs, mind control vehicles, etc., which type of technology is not coveted. However, this flashpoint is all gone. Silly, I'm such a stupid person, you can imagine how regretful Wang Ling was. He lost such a great opportunity, and there was no telling whether he would catch up next time. However, fortunately, Wang Ling is also open-minded. Now the Allied forces have exchanged many military technologies with the Allied forces, and coupled with his growth, he has become very powerful. He does not really need the technology of the Soul Empire, so if he loses it, it will be lost. Of course, annoyance was inevitable. With this annoyance, Wang Ling directly moved through time and space, returned to the 10 anti-aircraft crawler vehicles, ordered all troops to station on the crawler vehicles, then released the time and space fluctuation circle, and moved directly to a nearby route. Go up, block the Yuri troops here, and use full firepower to annihilate them. Afterwards, he led his troops and continued to move across time and space, quickly chasing down all the fleeing Yuri troops. He even made a quick trip to the Yuri base, destroyed all the buildings there, and cleared his mind. The remaining troops at Beacon. It can be said that he was completely venting his anger at losing Yuri's base vehicle. If the Soul Empire knew his mentality, he might be scolded. This is our technology, our base vehicle. What qualifications do you have to say that it was lost? No matter what, the battle he carried out of anger caused a lot of trouble for the remaining Yuri troops. Originally, they could rely on spreading out and escaping to delay as much time as possible. Maybe a few troops could escape smoothly, but Wang Ling's time travel movement restrained them from doing so. They fought back and forth on more than 10 fronts. The general intercepted nearly half of Yuri's troops, and the remaining Yuri's troops were also bitten by the coalition and allied forces, and they were annihilated after a fight. At this point, the Baiguan war zone was finally successfully recovered. This battle progressed very quickly due to Wang Ling's sudden reinforcement. However, the only drawback was that half of the oil production plants in the entire theater had been wiped out by Wang Ling, and the remaining half were destroyed by Yuri Base before they were destroyed. After being blown up, Mao didn't even leave the coalition and allied forces behind, but he was cruel enough. There is no way, the war brings not only sacrifices, but also almost unbearable economic losses. Whether it was General Li Wiki or Agent Tanya, they had already looked away. Only Wang Ling still complained from time to time. Just as Wang Ling said in the last war zone, the troops of the two armies will always be used to attacking cities one after another in the next battle. Now that they have become accustomed to this rhythm, the troops of the two armies have not recovered the Baiguan war zone. They continued to cheer and returned to the base in an orderly manner under the orders of their respective commanders. At the same time, they notified the headquarters of both armies and quickly dispatched the garrison troops. Of course, although it was a fast-paced battle, a long time had passed since Wang Ling grew up to be a soldier of the King-level Super Time Corps and the battle ended. It was now late at night, and the entire army simply celebrated. After the excitement was over, some of the people on duty were left behind and fell asleep one by one. Wang Ling, on the other hand, returned to the real world naturally. Now he was indeed a little tired, but he was more excited. After returning to the real world, he did not rest immediately. Instead, he sat up, and the arc of his mouth became more and more exaggerated, and he smiled like a 251 sample. Can you not be excited? This time back in the real world, he has brought out the ability of a military king-level Chrono Legion soldier. After all, the military units in the Red Alert world are used for fighting. Although each type of military unit is upgraded to a 10-star soldier king, it can be fed back to the real world. However, the real world is too sensitive after all. The weapons and skills of those combat type units, basically there is no environment for use. But the Chrono Legion soldiers are different. As long as they are properly covered, their ability to move through time can be used unscrupulously. What's more, Wang Ling has really thought about this ability to move through time and space for a long time. The world of Red Alert has given him great convenience. Now, he has finally mastered the skill in the real world. For this reason, Wang Ling was so excited that he couldn't sleep, so he simply got out of bed and wanted to try it out. Hoo-hoo. Roommate Wei Bowen was still fast asleep, so there was no need to worry about exposure. Wang Ling stared at the roof of the girls' dormitory through the window, thinking. Whoosh. As a circle of super time and space fluctuations appeared, Wang Ling also disappeared, and the next moment he suddenly appeared on the roof of the girls' dormitory. The distance between the two buildings is not too far, only about 200 meters. At such a close distance, there is almost no stiff time when moving through time and space. Moving to this place and looking at the surrounding roof structures, Wang Ling laughed excitedly. This was his first time traveling through time and space in the real world, not to mention how fun it was. Standing on the edge of the roof, Wang Ling looked intently at the boys' dormitory building opposite. It is now almost midnight, and most of the dormitory building is dark, but there are still some dormitories with lights on and nightlife going on. The elite combat soldier Wang Ling's shooting range is farther than that of a virus sniper. With such a long range, he naturally has extraordinary eyesight. Coupled with his night vision ability, under his gaze, everyone in the boys' dormitory building has not closed the curtains. He had a clear view of the room. However, he was not interested in boys. He looked at them casually for a few times and then looked away. Then he closed his eyes and released a large range of spiritual power. How big is this range? It encompassed the entire school almost instantly and extended for several kilometers. This spiritual power does not carry any coercion or attack power. If you only focus on the range, it is naturally huge. And Wang Ling had a vague perception of the places where such a large-scale spiritual power touched. Whoosh! With this vague perception, Wang Ling quickly located the classroom where they originally used for class, and arrived here with a super time and space movement. Then, he moved through time and space again and came to the roof of the guard room at the school gate. At this time, the guard had not yet fallen asleep. He seemed to hear some strange noises and hurriedly went out to check. However, when he saw the roof, he only saw a layer of vague traces of time and space fluctuations. However, Wang Ling had already left here and went to the park outside the school. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 930. Whoosh. 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 So far, Wang Ling's ability to move through time and space has been the most satisfactory feedback he has received. With the help of his ability to move through time and space, Wang Ling traveled almost all areas near the school that night. From the park near the school, he traveled through time and space to the roof of the former veterinary clinic. The clinic has been closed, but the veterinarian inside seems to have not yet fallen asleep. The lights are still on in the inner courtyard, and one or two barks can be heard from time to time. After another time travel movement, I came to a monument in another park. The park was deserted in the middle of the night and the street lights were turned off. However, relying on his night vision ability, Wang Ling could clearly see all the details on the monument. With another time travel movement, Wang Ling stepped directly onto the gate of the ancient city tower. This area was very dark at night, but Wang Ling could have a clear view. He was high up, looking down, and all the ancient houses were in his sights. After another time travel movement, Wang Ling revisited his old place and came to the roof of the Orion house where Xiaohe was poached. After being taught a lesson by Wang Ling last time, Orion still did not restrain himself. There were still intermittent barking sounds in the dog cage in the courtyard. For this reason, Wang Ling was so angry that he first moved to Orion's bedroom through time and space, and knocked him over with a pop while snoring, swollen half of his face. Then he moved through time and space to the courtyard, released an electric arc in his hand, and destroyed all the animals. He destroyed the dog cage, kicked open the door, and walked away. Whoosh. 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 Really, I have never been so happy. With the help of the ability to move across time and space, Wang Ling is like a ghost in the night, teleporting frequently, and his footprints are almost all over the county. It is really refreshing. Ha ha ha, that's great. It's not in vain that I tried my best to promote the exchange of technology between the two armed forces. This feedback is so worth it. Finally, they moved to the roof of the school's teaching building. Wang Ling smiled so high-spirited. Uncle He couldn't help but interject, how about it? Does it feel satisfying to master this kind of skill in the real world? Wang Ling nodded repeatedly, yes, it's extremely refreshing. However, there are still some flaws. How? The movement range is too small. My spiritual power can only cover a few kilometers at most. Each time I move through time and space, I can only move a few kilometers. If you want to move long distances, it is too troublesome. Moreover, this is not in the red alert world, there is no electronic map, and random movement through time and space has no direction at all. This severely limits the ability to move through time and space, Wang Ling replied. After all, it was a skill brought from the red alert world, where Wang Ling could use electronic maps to move across the length of more than a dozen war zones to move across time and space. However, the real world does not have the function of an electronic map, and Wang Ling can only rely on Wang Ling's mental range to move, which has a considerable impact on the use of the skill of time and space movement. Of course, this was just Wang Ling's casual complaint. After all, Wang Ling was very satisfied with being able to reflect this skill in the real world. But unexpectedly, Uncle He actually replied, haha, it turns out this is the problem, and I really have a way to solve it. Huh? I just said casually, do you really have a solution? What solution, Uncle He? Tell me quickly. When Wang Ling heard this, His eyes lit up and he urged like a monkey. Uncle Hay replied, "It's nothing more than a problem with the electronic map. I can easily capture and steal the satellite signals of your world. I can give you this ability. With it, you can use the satellite signals of the real world to reconstruct electronic map, and a worldwide electronic map." "Oh, Uncle Hay, you are unreasonable. You didn't tell me earlier that you had this kind of ability. Give it to me quickly." Wang Ling was excited. But Uncle Hay said, "Be patient, this ability comes at a price. The satellite signals in your world are divided into two categories, civilian and military. For civilian satellite signals, you need to pay 50,000 points to obtain them, which can build a global electronic maps, but electronic videos are relatively blurry, but the advantage is that they will not be discovered by anyone. Military satellite signals have extremely high definition, and can even reach the level of the red alert world. Watch electronic videos at will, and the world you can see every corner of the country at a glance in the subconscious electronic video. However, the price of military satellite signals is even greater. You need to pay 200,000 points in exchange, and then there may be a risk of exposure. After all, military satellite signals, that's quite sensitive. Is there still such a thing?" After hearing this, Wang Ling was amazed, but also laughed at him. "Uncle Hay, isn't this military satellite signal a bit ridiculous? 200,000 points is easy to talk about, and clear electronic video is also good, but there is a risk of exposure. How can I redeem it?" Uncle Hay, in turn, mocked, "Whether you are willing to exchange it or not depends on your courage. If you want to use the system to control the world, what if you are discovered? Now you should be able to fight against the military power of this world, right? TCH. Uncle Hay, stop tempting me. This is a road of no return. I don't want to cause trouble for myself." Wang Ling was decisive and rejected Uncle Hay's temptation in one breath, and then said impatiently, "If the electronic map is blurry, let it be blurry. I'm too lazy to keep peeking at the whole world from here, so it's okay if it's blurry. Uncle Hay, just redeem it for the civilian satellite signal, redeem it now. Okay, when you figure it out and want military grade ones, you can ask me to exchange them at any time." Uncle Hay left the last words and snapped his fingers without waiting for Wang Ling to complain. Buzzing. Uncle Hay's efficiency was quite high. After snapping his fingers, Wang Ling's mind immediately felt a violent buzzing. Then, just like when the red alert world obtained an electronic map, a condensed version of the electronic map gradually emerged in his subconscious. "Isn't this an electronic map of the entire Earth? Oh, that's awesome." Looking at the electronic map, Wang Ling couldn't help showing a somewhat horrified expression. On this electronic map, he could find the punctuation point of his location, and it continued to expand, eventually reaching the maximum scale, showing a blurry electronic video appearance. Of course, blurry is a relative term. After all, the electronic video in red alert world is too clear. In fact, in this blurry electronic video, you can see all the characters' movements in the dark, and you can also get a rough idea of Wang Ling's actions from it. But if you don't identify it carefully, Wang Ling can't even see the characters in this electronic video. Man is himself. However, that's enough. Wang Ling doesn't expect the electronic video to be very clear. As long as it can identify the location and allow him to move across time and space, that's enough. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 931. Speaking of which, this is really a sleepy experience. Traveling through time and space is convenient, but the requirements for perspective and destination location are too high. Previously, Wang Ling had only relied on the detection of mental power to move in a simple short distance, which was very satisfying to him, but he didn't expect that Uncle He would actually create an electronic map of the world in one fell swoop. This means that as long as Wang Ling wants to, he can reach any corner of the world instantly. It is just a matter of freezing time. Of course, it was limited to the areas that could be observed on the electronic map, such as the seabed and the interior of buildings. He could not lock in and go there. Ha ha ha, Uncle He, thanks. After viewing the electronic map and electronic video, Wang Ling was even more excited. He had already tried time travel in various areas around the school, but his interest had waned. However, after obtaining the global electronic map, Wang Ling became interested again, and the scope of his attempts also expanded. After searching for a while on the electronic map, he confirmed a location, grinned, and disappeared with a swish sound, but his figure appeared on the roof of his hometown more than 200 kilometers away. After traveling such a long distance through time and space, the stiffness time also increased, and it took about a minute and a half before the stiffness ended and returned to normal. One moment he was still in school, but this moment he was back home. The distance traveled across time and space was only a minute and a half including the freezing time. Looking at the familiar environment around him, Wang Ling was pleasantly surprised, but also a little emotional. At night, his parents had fallen asleep, but Wang Ling's mental power detection revealed that the old couple were sleeping in different rooms. Apparently they had quarreled again and were having a cold war. Well, Wang Ling was also helpless about this. Whoosh. This time he was just testing out time travel, and his main purpose was not to go home, so he didn't bother the two elders. Then his mental power locked onto the town's elementary school, and he came to the campus using time travel. This place is full of his memories, but it has been so long since he graduated, and the school has been renovated several times, so when he comes here again, it already feels a bit strange. Whoosh. With the help of the electronic map, Wang Ling once again traveled across time and space to the high school more than 50 kilometers away, and stopped on the roof of the dormitory building. To be honest, the memories of high school are not very good for Wang Ling, but they are also a period of time in the past. Here, it was late at night, but people were not quiet. Many students in the dormitory were still chatting. Some even ran to the toilet to puff up smoke, but the footsteps of the teacher on duty scared them so much that they hurried back to the dormitory. Tisk, tisk, it's the same as ours. Wang Ling detected this through his mental power and couldn't help laughing. Due to the singleness of his past experiences, Wang Ling's life had very few turning points. At this point, he has almost seen all of his footsteps. However, under the global electronic map, Wang Ling is not willing to let it go. His wonderful life only started with the acquisition of the extra-dimensional system, and now that he has the time and space movement in his hand, it is a sublimation. Whoosh. After searching the electronic map for a period of time, Wang Ling confirmed a location. After moving through time and space, he appeared on a high-rise building in the capital. This high-rise building is an office building. According to Wei Bowen's account, this is where they usually make harassing calls. The capital city at night was still lively, the streets were bustling with people, and people were coming and going under the night market, but no one noticed Wang Ling on the high building. According to the narrative, Wang Ling mobilized the electronic map, locked a collective apartment, moved there through time and space, and used his spiritual power to search for Zhang Shenke and Dongfang Yuking. The dormitory they were in was only half the size of the school dormitory, but there were 8 people living in it. The area is small and the environment is not great. There are debris piled everywhere, and there are even dozens of cockroaches hiding in the corners. In the dormitory, there were still 2 packed suitcases piled up. Wang Ling could recognize that these were those 2, but he didn't know what they planned to do after dawn. He wanted to say hello to them, but Wang Ling stretched out his hand, but still retracted it, shook his head and gave up. Whoosh. After seeing the two of them, Wang Ling felt a little more at ease. After searching the electronic map for a while, he made another time travel movement. This time, he appeared directly on the top of Mount Tai. After ending his stiffness, Wang Ling raised his eyes and looked out, feeling the coolness of the high altitude, and experiencing the visual impact of climbing Mount Tai in the dark night. After actually watching for a while, Wang Ling was satisfied and continued to move across time and space. He looked at all the 5 mountains and 3 mountains. With the help of the cover of the night sky, no one found his trace. The 5 mountains and the 3 mountains each have their own charm, but they feel that they lead to the same destination by different routes, and the height difference is not too big. I don't know what the world's highest summit will be like, so let's give it a try. However, Wang Ling was still dissatisfied. He became ambitious and set his sights on the highest peak in the world. With a movement through time and space, he appeared directly on top of Mount Everest. This time, he moved across time and space, almost across the entire territory of China, and the time of inactivity naturally increased a lot. It took about 10 minutes to end. Ah, sneeze. After it was over, Wang Ling immediately sneezed. Although Mount Tai is high, it pales in comparison to the highest peak in the world. The extremely high altitude also has extremely low temperatures. However, Wang Ling temporarily traveled across time and space, wearing only pajamas the whole time. Even with his physical condition, I was freezing for a moment. Hoo-hoo. On the top of the peak, the cold wind howled, and when I looked up, I could not feel the splendor at all. Instead, a sense of fear took over my heart, forcing Wang Ling to give in and leave. Afterwards, Wang Ling traveled through time and space one after another, reaching the southwest plateau and crossing the northwest basin. Then, during a time and space movement, he left the country without a certificate and appeared on the African savanna. After about 17 or 8 minutes of stiffness ended, Wang Ling was also stunned because he was actually bitten by a group of wild wolves. With Wang Ling's current body, even the space-time movement field couldn't hurt him at all. The bites of the wolves naturally couldn't hurt him, but they left many gaps in his pajamas. In desperation, Wang Ling could only release his mental pressure and scare away the wolves in an instant. It was already late at night in Hua Kingdom, but it was still in the afternoon here. Under the blazing sunshine, the entire grassland was scorching Wang Ling like a furnace. However, Wang Ling could bear it. After looking up and seeing the surrounding scenery, Wang Ling left with satisfaction and moved through time and space to halfway up the pyramid. It is said that the top of the pyramid is a forbidden place for life, and there are even similar legends. Wang Ling did not want to touch that brow. After looking at the scenery here for a while, he went to Europe, then the 2 major Americas and Australia, and finally with the help of using the Hawaiian Islands as a springboard, I traveled back to school through time and space, circling the Earth once and for all. It only took nearly an hour. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 932. In 1 hour, it circled the Earth. Not to mention that no one would believe this feat, even Wang Ling felt it was unreal. The ability to move across time and space in the real world, especially with the help of a global electronic map, is really not too convenient. Of course, this trip around the world is only symbolic. After all, Wang Ling just made a temporary move and wandered around casually. It is far from enough to visit every area in the world. Otherwise, even if he has the ability to move through time and space, 1 hour is not enough. However, using the ability to move through time and space, starting from one end and returning to the other end, this is an indisputable fact. Finally returning to the roof of the dormitory building, Wang Ling couldn't help but laugh wildly when recalling this experience. Teleportation and flying are 2 major skills that many people may have fantasized about, and so does Wang Ling. But today, he really mastered the teleportation skill. Can he not be excited by the exhilarating feeling of traveling around the world in an hour? Who is this? Why are you smiling so lewdly? Which 250? You don't sleep at night, you are laughing at your sister. Are you imitating the villain in the movie? However, just when Wang Ling was laughing excitedly, a series of shouts and curses came from the dormitory building, causing Wang Ling to suddenly choke and blush. This scene was so hilarious that if Wei Bowen knew about it, he would probably laugh at it. Now, Wang Ling really realized what it meant to be get carried away. His exaggerated laughter could be heard in all dormitories with open windows in the entire dormitory building. Although it is already late at night, there are still some students staying up late in the dormitory building. Those who stay up late at night will scold you for not discussing it. Even some students who were relatively light sleepers were woken up. When they got up, they were so angry that they didn't scold you but still provided for you. Fortunately, these yelling and cursing did not last long. After the sound stopped, Wang Ling was really embarrassed for a while, and then he managed to regain his composure, released his mental power, locked his dormitory, and returned safely with a time travel movement. My woo! Xiao He seemed to have been woken up just now. After seeing Wang Ling, he raised his head and let out a low moan. Wang Ling stepped forward and touched its head, barely caressed it for a few words, and coaxed it back to sleep. But Wei Bowen was too asleep. The laughter and curses just now were far from enough to wake him up. He turned over, grinned at his teeth, and even snored again. In fact, Wang Ling knew from his mental perception that this guy was still sleeping, otherwise he wouldn't have moved directly to the dormitory so openly. As for now, I have acquired the skills and even tried them all over the world. I am satisfied and it is finally time to go to bed. Speaking of which, Wang Ling was indeed sleepy. He fell asleep within a few seconds after lying down and slept peacefully until dawn. The next day, everything was as usual. The ordinary life in the real world happened to be a buffer against the murderous atmosphere of the red alert world. Wang Ling was naturally quite comfortable staying in the dormitory. Wei Bowen spent most of the time playing games, while Wang Ling rested. According to his habit in the past few days, except for mealtime, this could last almost until night. However, in the afternoon, when Wang Ling was taking a rest, calls came in from both men's mobile phones almost at the same time. Wang Ling was not asleep. He picked up his phone and looked at it. It was Dongfang Yuking. Clicking to answer, Wang Ling shouted directly, "Hey, Yuking, today is not a weekend. Why are you not doing an internship? Hasn't your phone been confiscated?" However, Dongfang Yuking on the other side did not reply at all. "Hey, Shenke, what's the matter?" Just when Wang Ling was wondering, Wei Bowen also picked up the phone. It seemed to him that the call was from Zhang Shenke. These two brothers can do it. Each one calls the other. The division of labor is quite clear. As soon as Wei Bowen finished speaking, a cry came from the two phones in unison, "Son, come and pick up your dad." This shout confused Wang Ling and Wei Bowen. They looked at each other, both a little confused. After a few seconds, Wei Bowen asked, "What the hell, I bought a ticket to pick you up in the capital." "Bah, what's the capital? We are at the school gate, help us get our luggage," Dongfang Yuking replied. "Huh? You guys are back too? What happened? Resigned? Oh, go back and tell me, come and carry your luggage." "Hey, my dear brother." Wei Bowen was so happy that he didn't care about being taken advantage of before. He jumped up with a cry and said with a smile, "Let me tell you, they must come back. It's just that they came back too fast." Wang Ling also came back to his senses. He just remembered that through his mental perception last night, he found that the two of them had packed their suitcases and planned to return to school early. Good guys, although I don't know what happened, it's a good thing to be reunited. Wang Ling also jumped off the bed and waved, "Don't be stunned, let's walk." To be honest, he almost wanted to launch a time travel movement just now and arrived at the school gate with Wei Bowen in an instant. However, this skill could not be exposed to the public, even in front of his roommates. Wang Ling had no choice but to restrain himself and ran to the school gate in person. Sheng Cai and Yu Qing, although they were quite funny, they were also honest. Before Wang Ling and Wei Bowen reached the school gate, they met two people walking towards the school with large bags and small bags, so they quickly took over the luggage. After a spanking, we returned to the dormitory together. "Oh, the school dormitory is more comfortable. Isn't that right? When you stay in the capital, the dormitories are too shabby and the living here is so uncomfortable, but it's so comfortable here. Ouch, it's so comfortable." After returning to the dormitory, they threw away their luggage and jumped on their beds. Even though there were no sheets, they still showed intoxicated expressions. It seemed that they had a hard time during their internship in Beijing. Wang Ling waited for them to feel comfortable for a while, then asked, "Tell me, why are you back? Did you also resign like this guy?" "Ahem, you might as well resign. At least you took the initiative to resign, and we both resigned passively." Dongfang Yuking seemed a little aggrieved. Wei Bowen blinked. "Passive resignation? Fired? What's going on? Aren't you two doing a good job? Your order volume is higher than that of some regular employees. Is the company stupid enough to fire you too?" Zhang Sheng just rested for a while, pulled out his sheets, and while busy, he explained, "It's not his fault. He had to drag me to smoke, he had to drag me to smoke. And he didn't go to the designated smoking area. He went to the roof of some building to smoke, but the property manager caught him and reported it to the supervisor. You were fired just because you smoked." Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 933. This incident is indeed a bit strange. Shenkei and Yuking have more orders than regular employees, but due to their status as interns, their wages are less than half or even one-third of those of regular employees. What manager or boss wouldn't want an intern like this? But in the end, two people were fired just because of smoking. What is this? Isn't it? It's just because of smoking. Zhang Shenkei explained while making the bed, "The office building we are in is rented by the company, and the supervisor is not from the company. Beijing has the strictest ban on smoking, and the supervisor of the office building does not allow smoking in the building. You can smoke if you want. Leaving the office building through the back door, there is a special smoking area. However, we did not smoke in the designated place, and the violation was discovered by the property management." Wang Ling and Wei Bowen finally understood that these two people committed crimes against the odds. As the saying goes, if you are not diligent or lazy, you will not be smart. The two of them were smoking on the roof of the building. If you can find that place, there must be other people who have committed crimes, but it was these two brothers who were caught. If they live, they can only be considered unlucky. Dongfang Yuking finally opened the suitcase, and after fussing for a while, he continued, "The manager of my office building doesn't care whether your orders are high or not. As long as you violate his rules, you will get out. The manager can't protect us." "I'm too lazy to protect you," Zhang Sheng interrupted. Dongfang Yuking was stunned, glared at him, and then sighed, "The manager is too lazy to protect us, but our beautiful team leader doesn't want us to leave, and even defends us." As a result, the supervisor and manager were resolute and asked her. I almost cried. Now that I think about it, I feel really sorry for her. "Tch, pull you down." Zhang Shenkei had already laid out the bed sheets, threw the pillows and quilts on the bed, and started to make trouble. "Let me tell you the truth, we are not outsiders anymore. In fact, we were discovered, then it was intentional. This grandson envied Bowen's resignation and didn't want to do it anymore. Since you left, he took me to the roof to smoke every day for fear that I wouldn't be discovered. No, I was really arrested yesterday afternoon. Found out, fired smoothly. Hey, brother, hey, long time no see. Being exposed to the light, Dongfang Yuking was embarrassed and ran directly in front of Xiao He, hugging his neck, looking like the two brothers were getting along well. My woo. Although this was sticky, it was much gentler than the original Weibo post about Bailey. Xiao He did not resist, nor rolled his eyes. Instead, he closed his eyes and grinned, looking like a silly smile. Shen-Kai also went over and stroked Xiao He's dog head and sighed, "Oh, come back as soon as you come back. It's better to be at school. The environment there, whether it's the working environment or the living environment, is disgusting. Right, brother He?" Meow. Xiao He continued to whisper. Wei Bowen was happy. "Hey, good guy, our dormitory is completely wiped out. The internship time is not even half over, and they all ran back. Are you scared? This is not cowardice, it is a wise retreat. I dare say that in the next few months, the employer will only be more ruthless, with fewer holidays and more frequent overtime work. If you don't believe it, wait until the internship is over and ask those who have completed the internship. That's enough," Dongfang Yuking quickly defended. Zhang Shenkai said with admiration, "Now that I think about it, Wang Ling was still smart. He felt that this unit was unreliable from the beginning and did not go to the internship. At first, we thought you were crazy, but now it turns out that we are the naive ones." Wang Ling giggled twice, and then asked, "I have already looked away. I didn't go to the internship anyway, so it's normal for the school to be embarrassed. But you have been practicing for at least 2 months, and running back halfway doesn't count. What about the internship certificate? Don't worry, there will be a way to reach the mountain. There are many people who have not done internships in the past, but as long as those who have paid the tuition have received their diplomas, we don't have to worry too much. Yes, this is the characteristic of our school. Only a few departments are serious, and the others are just a foil and used to make money. Just look away. Ha ha ha, when I resigned, the manager used my internship certificate to pressure me. Does she not know our school's work style?" These 3 people, each of them said that they didn't worry about things like internship certificates at all. By the way, where's Tong Tong? After saying this, Wang Ling suddenly realized that someone was missing. Dongfang Yuking's partner also went to the internship together. Dongfang Yuking waved her hand and replied, "Well, she is timid and wanted to resign and come back with us, but the manager scared her back with her internship certificate. Let her smoke." As a result, Wei Bowen suddenly said this, "If he dares to scare people with his internship certificate, tell Tong Tong that he will choke her to death if he smokes in front of the manager." Damn it, don't pay attention to this loser. Zhang Shenkai really had nothing to say to him, while Wang Ling burst out laughing, and Dongfang Yuking's face turned a little green. No matter what happens in the future, in short, because of the resignation of these guys, it is rare for them to gather together in the dormitory again. After asking these 3 people, they found that they were a bit upset during their internship and had no plans to go out to work in the near future. During these days, Wang Ling had a few more companions in the real world. That afternoon, it was relatively peaceful. Shenkai and Yuking were tired from traveling. After chatting for a while, they took a rest one after another. But at night, these people got high, went out for a beer and barbecue, and then stayed up all night in the KTV. Even Wang Ling did not return to the red alert world. The next day when he returned to the dormitory, he screamed. Fell asleep. The problem of work after graduation has always been a mountain on their shoulders, but at least now, they can enjoy their life without any worries. For this reason, Wang Ling did not even go to the red alert world for nearly a week. He concentrated on accompanying these old friends in reality. He entertained during the day and stayed up late or rested at night. It could be said that he was as decadent and dissolute as he wanted. Everyone cherishes this increasingly shorter ivory tower time. After waiting for a week, Wang Ling gradually adapted to this rhythm, and then returned to the Red Alert world that night. In today's Red Alert world, the Baiguan war zone has been recovered, and the headquarters is also stepping up its efforts to dispatch garrison troops. However, General Li Wiki and Agent Tanya can't wait, because Agent Tanya always feels that the actions of the Seoul Empire are a bit inappropriate. Normally, as a result, early the next morning, before the garrison arrived, the two major bases led their troops directly to the next war zone, Nakado War Zone. No matter what big moves the Seoul Empire makes, there is definitely nothing wrong with continuously destroying the Seoul beacon. Buzz. However, during this migration, the two bases suddenly received urgent distress signals before they reached the target theater. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanchien Lang. Chapter 934. What's going on? Where's the cry for help? Upon hearing this urgent buzz, both bases were startled. After General Li Wiki quickly checked the source of the signal, his expression changed. It's the Pingran War Zone more than 200 kilometers away from our southwest. Something happened to General Lin Huo's base, and an emergency request for help was sent to all nearby war zones. Pingran War Zone? General Lin Huo, Wang Ling was very unfamiliar with this war zone, and he was not familiar with the names of the generals. According to General Li Wiki, after opening the electronic map of the Pingran War Zone, Wang Ling realized how tense the war was. The electronic map there has lost the spy satellite signal. It is obvious that the Allied base in the local theater has been destroyed, and now the major forces in Yuri base are joining forces to attack the only remaining Allied base. Moreover, the attack was unknown for how long. The defense line had been completely defeated, and there were heavy casualties in the base. There were even 5 laser UFOs, each of which was attached to an anti-aircraft gun, bombarding the surrounding coalition forces. During the investigation, Wang Ling accidentally discovered a familiar figure, the leader of the fire team, Yan Tian. Today, Xia Tian has lost half of his health. He is not an air defense force and cannot deal with the threat of the air force. He can only lead the remaining troops of the fire team and fight desperately against the army troops at Yuri base. But these Yuri troops are coming with such force that they are obviously no longer able to withstand them, and it is only a matter of time before they are defeated. Buzz. Just when I saw this, another laser UFO was suddenly attached to the nuclear reactor. The power to the base was instantly interrupted. The electronic map of the Pingran theater was also interrupted. Naturally, all anti-aircraft guns and magnetic storm coils were also interrupted. The loss of power makes this already critical base even more difficult. Damn, Yan Tian. General, please help. Seeing this scene, Wang Ling became anxious. Normally, when the war is so tense, ordinary rescue would be too late, but Wang Ling's time travel movement can reach the Pingran War Zone in an instant. Although the electronic map is confusing, Wang Ling has memorized the general direction, distance, and coordinates, and can always move in time. Okay, you lead a group of troops to rescue quickly, and we will change direction immediately. General Li Wiki was decisive and immediately agreed to Wang Ling's request. Stop being ridiculous. The directions of the Pingran War Zone and the Nakado War Zone are completely different. This will delay our operations. And even if the base is saved, its vitality will be severely damaged. However, Agent Tanya said. Blocked it? Wang Ling didn't care about this and yelled back, Yantian is my brother, no matter what happens to the base, I will save him. General Liwiki also said quickly, although the direction is different, it will not delay us for too long. The Seoul Empire has built many psychic beacons, and they are the same wherever we attack. Listen to me, change the direction, and take the lead in regaining the Pin Grand Theater. If anything happens, I will take full responsibility. There's really nothing I can do against you. Everyone listen, change the direction of march and head to the Pin Grand War Zone as quickly as possible, although Tanya blocked it before, but after making the decision, she acted more resolutely than anyone else and was the first to issue the order. This obstacle was released, and Wang Ling couldn't wait any longer. Fortunately, during the march, the infantry were already in the anti-aircraft crawler vehicles, which saved a lot of time. Wang Ling called 10 of the Wolf Group's anti-aircraft crawlers, strengthened them into the form of the Wild Beast King, and released a hyperspace wave circle, covering the 10 anti-aircraft crawlers. Whoosh! Then, a series of time travel movements began. If he were to move through ordinary time and space and wanted to be rescued, he would definitely not be able to catch up in time. However, Wang Ling's freezing time each time he moved was more than 10 times shorter than ordinary time and space Legion soldiers, which was equivalent to traveling at 10 times the speed. As a vanguard, Wang Ling felt a sense of urgency, and the frequency of his hyperspace movements was frightening. He only moved a dozen kilometers each time, returned to normal after a few seconds, and continued moving. Although marching like this is troublesome, it is very safe. After all, the shorter the moving distance, the shorter the freezing time, so that you can respond to various emergencies at any time. However, since he carried 10 anti-aircraft crawlers, which happened to be the threshold for carrying troops in his form, every time he moved across time and space, the powerful field would tear open tiny cracks in Wang Ling's body. And every time he returned to the stiff state, his body didn't have time to recover, but he continued to move. As a result, after going back and forth, there were an exaggerated number of cracks on his body, and little drops of blood seeped out of them, which looked a little oozing. Fortunately, the distance between the two places was not too far. Under Wang Ling's hurried march, after more than 20 times of time and space movement, he finally broke into the Pin Grand War Zone, and with another time and space movement, he teleported to General Lin Huo, the rear of the base. After the stiffness ended, the cracks on Wang Ling's body finally healed quickly, but Wang Ling couldn't care about it now and quickly ordered all the infantry in the anti-aircraft tracked vehicles to get off. The current Linhuo General Base is almost collapsed. More than half of the major buildings and troops have been lost. There is smoke everywhere. There are countless enemy troops flying in the sky and underground, and it seems that they may overwhelm the entire base at any time. The most dangerous thing is the command post. A laser UFO attached to an anti-aircraft gun is actually bombarding the command post, knocking out about half of the command post's health. Brothers, kill all Yuri's troops, no one will be left alive. After seeing the miserable condition of the base, Wang Ling immediately went up. With a roar, he aroused the fighting spirit of the Wolf Group's rescue team, and he himself moved to the side of the command post in an instant, raised the anti-aircraft gun and fired a fierce shelling. Dong 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 dong. Tisk tisk. The destructive power of his bombardment was already powerful, but it was also mixed with electromagnetic energy, making it even more destructive. He bombarded a laser UFO alone with almost no effort. Before it could fire 2 more laser beams, it destroyed it. Its hull shot down. Kill. Kill. But after the laser UFO crashed, the Wolf Group troops also rushed to the front line and exchanged fire fiercely with the large force of Yuri's recruits in front. In fact, the entire base had little hope for asking for help. After all, the enemy's offensive was too fierce. But unexpectedly, reinforcements actually arrived. Although the Wolf Group can only bring in 50 infantry, these 50 infantry represent a vitality. What's more, among the 50 people, 40 of them are elite level or above. Erlu and several infantrymen have reached the 7-star ace level. The ferocity of the firepower that broke out at that moment really shocked everyone here. Guard. Xia Tian, who was already desperate, saw the reinforcements formed by the wolves and Wang Ling next to the command post, and gradually showed an ecstatic face. Wang Ling. It's Wang Ling. Haha, the strongest reinforcements are here, brother. You guys, we don't have to die, just give me a good beating, and I'll take care of all the bastards of Yuri's troops. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 935. In the past, they were comrades of the same level, but today Wang Ling is already the hero of the entire army. He has the strongest firepower in the entire army, which widens the gap between the two. However, Xia Tian did not feel any dissatisfaction. Instead, he was impressed from the bottom of his heart. Today, destruction was imminent, but this old comrade carried the strongest firepower and fought to the rescue. Can he not be excited? Oh! Kill! In the shadow of the famous tree, the fire team has basically changed its blood after such a long battle. Many people have never seen Wang Ling in person, but they are already familiar with his name. Now it was the heroes of the coalition forces who rushed to the rescue. At this moment, all the guards seemed to have been given a shot of blood. The original despair was instantly diluted, replaced by inexplicable excitement and high fighting spirit. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Kill. Boom. Boom. In excitement, the entire army burst out with unprecedented fighting power, and the firepower soared by one level. Although they were still being beaten due to the menacing force of Yuri's troops, the momentum was completely different. The role of heroes and morale is undoubtedly reflected here. Hold on to. Wang Ling was satisfied with this change, but now was not the time to be complacent. After saving the command post, Wang Ling moved through time and space again and came to the side of the nuclear reactor, aiming at the laser UFO adsorbed in the air. It was a fierce bombardment, and it was shot down in a matter of seconds. Buzzing. After the culprit was solved, the power supply was restored to the entire coalition base in an instant. The major anti-aircraft guns immediately rotated to bombard the remaining laser UFOs, and the magnetic storm coils were also aimed at all Yuri armored units within the range of fire. Fire hard. The originally decadent battle situation began to gradually come under control at this moment. However, this is not enough. Whoosh. As the strongest firepower, Wang Ling also joined the battlefield and reached the front line with a time travel movement. Buzz. Uh-huh. Oh. Oh ho. There were too many Yuri infantry in front. Wang Ling simply released a large-scale mental shockwave, which instantly exploded all the Yuri infantry in the area. Even the armored units were damaged to varying degrees. The originally dense front line, a large area was swept away in this moment. Hiss. Is this the fighting power of a hero? It's really terrifying. Good guy, so strong. Haha, there is hope that I can survive. Dot. The front line troops, who were originally under great pressure, relaxed instantly. All the guards were touched by their sensitive nerves. They were frightened and excited at the same time. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Boom. 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 Oh. Oh ho. However, Wang Ling had no time to take care of their feelings now. After clearing a large area of infantry, he picked up his rifle again and fired at full speed. At the rate of fire that was as fast as a Gatling gun, the muzzle seemed to be exposed. Out of flames. Under his concentrated bombardment, all the tanks that had originally survived were blown up. Then the infantry in the rear were also drawn into the target circle. Under the strafing fire, they fell in pieces. The efficiency of this cleaning was extremely high. Actually not much worse than the on-site guards put together. Buzz buzz. However, the number of Yuri troops attacking this time was too large. Wang Ling alone could not wipe them all out at once. While Wang Ling was shooting, another one rushed in from outside the battle circle. A large number of tanks and armored vehicles, followed by hundreds of infantrymen, formed a torrent of steel, gradually filling the vacancy, vowing to destroy the entire coalition base. There were even more than 20 laser UFOs in the sky, coming from 3 different directions. Stop being stunned, fire. Although Wang Ling is strong, he is only one person after all. Facing the swarms of Yuri troops, he will inevitably be stretched. However, he was not fighting alone. The torrent of steel surged forward, but Xia Tian also screamed, and then many defenders opened fire again, sparing no effort to block Yuri's troops. The Wolf Group's anti-aircraft tracked vehicles, plus all the remaining tracked vehicles in the base, and even anti-aircraft guns, concentrated their firepower on the laser UFOs in the air, staging a vigorous artillery battle. Under their fire resistance, the unusually turbulent torrent of steel was finally severely blocked and stuck outside the defenders' fire circle, making it difficult to advance. Even under the bombardment of the coalition's fire, large numbers of troops were killed at all times. Among them, the most ferocious one was Wang Ling. When the firepower covered all the enemy troops in sight, they were like living targets. Under the bombardment of powerful combat power, Yuri's troops were beaten to a certain extent. Be terrified. Relying on such firepower, the coalition's originally defeated defense line was reinforced, and it was even worse than before. The fierce battle lasted for a long time. Yuri's troops finally ran out of stamina and were guarded by Wang Ling and others. Destroy them all together. In this battle, the coalition camp won in the end. But when there is war, there are sacrifices. Yuri's troops did get close to each other several times under the brutal charge. In these battles, the fire team and the ice team added another 10% to their original losses. Among the casualties, even the Wolf Group troops had 6 killed, and 2 anti-aircraft tracked vehicles exploded. However, being able to defend this base and protect the safety of the remaining personnel is already worth it. What's more, didn't Yuri's base suffer greater losses than them? Oh. Survived. We didn't die. Haha. After annihilating the attacking Yuri troops, many guards in the base were stunned for a moment, and then, led by someone unknown, they cheered collectively. As for the Soul Empire, they used Psychic Storm to open the way, and the army attacked behind. They annihilated the Allied forces base with lightning speed, and then turned their guns to target the Allied forces base and bombarded them. They were about to be destroyed, and everyone was worried. In desperation, this powerful reinforcement suddenly arrived, trying to protect the entire base and destroy all enemy forces. The joy of surviving the disaster fills everyone's heart. But among the cheers, there were also some cries mixed in. Those were tears for the comrades who died in the battle. After the cheers continued for a while, they finally fell silent. The 2 field groups quickly cleaned up the battlefield. According to statistics, the 2 originally strong field groups actually lost nearly 70% of their troops in this battle. Seeing this kind of loss, Xia Tian, Bing Miao, and even General Lin Huo in the command post couldn't help but feel a bit sad. After sighing for a while, Yan Ke found Wang Ling, gave Wang Ling a solemn military salute, and patted Wang Ling on the shoulder. I didn't expect that you arrived at the critical moment of life and death. If it weren't for you, we would all have died in the battle.